Welcome to the Zapata brand. And now, your host, George Zapata.
So, do you get the call to come to Berwick, or do they call you?
Well, that's the funny part, George.
All right.
So the year before that,
We're talking 98?
no, we're talking 2010.
Oh, 2010.
Okay.
You're just moving up.
What do you mean?
So in 2010 is when.
I was in West Virginia I've been everywhere. I'm like an Egyptian, man. So from 2006 to 2011, I was in West Virginia.
Okay.
But we're
Just
going
wanna make
back to 2010.
Okay.
Berwick reached out to me about coming up here to coach. And I looked into it, and I applied, and I was told I was getting the job, and everything was going to be great. About ready to put my house up for sale. And I was torn a little bit, too, because I didn't want to leave West Virginia yet because I knew I had this good team coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but I was going to suck it up, and then I get a phone call about 3 or 4 days before the board meeting from the superintendent, and he said, "Hey, we've had a little hiccup. There's a board member that wants somebody else on it, and they're going to vote for this other guy. You're not going to get the job." I'm like, "You pretty much told me to go ahead and put my house up, be ready to come, Well, I apologize. I don't know what to tell you. It's just not going to work out." Man, I was mad.
Yeah.
I was furious. And, my wife was a little bit upset.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then I told you about, the following year when we played in state championship, my wife says, "I really want to try to move back, whether we can get in Berwick or not." Long and behold, the job opened up again at Berwick. Okay. I guess it didn't work out with the previous guy for a year. And Tim Honeywell was AD. I don't know if you know Tim.
I know Tim well.
He called me, and Tim's a great guy. He said, "Hey, this is Tim Honeywell, AD. I don't know if you'd be interested in applying for the basketball job again." I said, "Are you kidding me? Like the way you all did me?" He said, "I get it. I wanted to reach out to you. I knew how much it meant to my wife. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I applied again. Actually, I flew up here. I flew from Charleston, West Virginia to Detroit to Wilkes-Barre, because Maria was up here. It was during the summer. I got the job, and here I am talking to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get to Berwick. A culture shock a little bit?
It's tough. It was tough because, I still have that little Southern twang.
Mm-hmm. Little.
Yeah. Okay. A lot.
All right. You go with what you want.
Yeah. But, yeah, it was a culture shock. Like, I had never heard of pierogies. Didn't know what a pierogi was. I eat them all the time now. I didn't know what halushka was. Or is that how you say it?
I don't know. I kind of just blend in.
Yeah.
I don't say anything. I don't eat that.
I mean, I didn't know any of that. It was a culture shock. I knew their basketball program was not the best of shape, but everywhere I'd been, I was able to build the program up, and me and my staff, I don't want to say me, was able to build everything up, and the kids, they bought in, and we'd win a ton of games and had a lot of success.
Mm-hmm.
But Berwick basketball program was in bad shape. Mm-hmm. So I did tell them it's going to take us 5 to 6 years to build this thing up. A lot of people say, "Okay, we'll give you 2 or 3 years." I said, this has been on the back burner for a while. It's going to take 5, 6, 7 years to really build it up. And
were you confident coming here that you could turn?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm confident
without seeing any talent.
Anything.
Yeah.
I'd read about them in the paper when my wife and I were married and stuff. You know what I mean? And I knew it was a quote unquote football school still. Mm-hmm. So I was confident. It was my new home. I'm going to make it work because now I brought my 2 little boys up. My wife's from here. She has a lot of Berwick pride. I'm going to make this sucker work. And, I felt like I did make it work. And then it was, whatever.
Okay. So tell me a time when you first got here. Did you ever think of, I want to go back.
To West Virginia?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I miss the South, but.
No, when you first got here, were you?
But listen, the first day I got here, George, the next day, they did an interview with me, like the Press Enterprise.
Uh-huh.
The next day, there was something in the editorial about me saying that it's wrong that they hired this guy. He's not from around here. Who's he think he is? Da da da. Now my father-in-law, who worked at the the dog food plant. All right, somebody was reading the article to him because he's from Spain originally. Yep. I think you've met him before. Great times. One of the best guys you'll ever meet.
Yep.
And they were reading the story to him, and he came home that night because now me and my wife and kids, we were staying at her parents' until we found a home here. And he was upset, man. Like, why would they say these things about you? And I'm like, hell, man, I've only been here 48 hours. They're already ripping me apart, you know? And then it wasn't the second or third game of the year. Some of the parents who were happy that I had came to instill discipline, they were out in the lobby there at the Berwick Gymnasium trying to get a pension to get rid of me. The first year, like 3 games in, and we were actually 1-2.
Yeah,
which is not too bad at the time. And the two we lost, they were very competitive games. We didn't like how tough he was on them. We don't like where, you know, our kids should be able to. No, I'm in charge. You're not. So yeah, right away, I was thinking, man, I wish I could move back.
So that was the first, first couple games. You're thinking to move back,
but this was more about my wife and kids, not about me.
And I think instilled in you from your grandmother of not quitting, seeing through, doing stuff that you say you're going to do, putting together a program.
Yeah, I'll never quit.
So, okay, I'm going to get a little goofy here with you, if you don't mind. What do you say to the people that say Jason Kingery is over the top? Jason Kingery screams. Jason Kingery hollers. Jason Kingery is too tough on my kids. Jason Kingery is just tough in general on my kids. We live in a different culture now, so you have to understand that that's going to be said.
Correct.
What's your answer to that?
You're right, but if you let me coach your kid, I'm all about tough love. Tough love. You know, when you do something good, you pat them on the butt. When they do something bad, you let them know. And the parents are right. And ever since I'm not a head coach anymore, I've toned it down a little bit. But I'm not going to hold back on who I am because some people don't like how I act. You know what I mean? And like I told you earlier, I don't care if it's my star player or the manager. If they're not doing right, they're going to be told. And I just feel like there needs to be more of that. I don't want to hear this. It's 2023. You're too tough on kids. Well, what are we doing to society? You know? My job is to get them ready so they can come to work for Georgie Bagels. My job is to get them ready so if they go to law school, it's easy. And the kids that have played for me over the years and stuck it out for 4 years, and I talk to them a bunch still, they come back and they say, you got me through this because the way you taught me on the basketball or football field. And you can't ask. That's what I'm here for, to get these guys ready for life. It's good to win games. I mean, it's all, you know, everyone looks at the scoreboard. I get it. You got to win. I get it. All right. But at the same time, I'm trying to teach these kids the game of life. And if I'm tough on them and they can go off to college or military or whatever they choose to do, a job, and they can kind of look back and say, you're nothing. You should have seen Coach Kingery get on me, you know, then I've made it easier for them. And most of these parents, they see that once their kids get older. They don't see it during that time, but once they get older, they're like, I see what you were trying to do.
So how do you balance that, though? Meaning, there's as you're bringing kids through the school, there has to be some sort of balance for the kids, because some kids you almost got to be a therapist or a psychologist even. Some kids can handle that, and some kids can't.
Right.
How do you balance that? How do you take it and say, okay, I know this kid?
You do have to balance it, and some of them you can get on harder than others. So
but how do you do it? If I had a kid to you who was not as athletic, okay, he tried really, really hard, but he couldn't get it, and another guy who was was more athletic and put just as hard for work in, but you knew he had more, are you not saying you're going to treat them differently, but how do you get these guys on the same level?
The lower level, you praise them harder.
Okay.
You praise them harder. The guy high up, you persecute them harder. You do. I mean, you do. And it's worked everywhere I've been. But times have changed.
But how do you pinpoint the kids that you could do that to?
You could pinpoint it the first day you talk to them.
Do you go how the parents are? Like, do you looking back, seeing their parents saying, okay, this guy might be able to work a little bit more with, that the parents will be on my side? Because whether we think it or not, we have to have the parents in.
Yes.
And that's why I think, honestly, that's why I think there's some trouble right now. And I'm saying on your side, because we'll get back to Berwick.
Yeah.
The situation that happened to you in Berwick, you were terminated or not renewed your job. I don't know how they say it.
They kept saying, let go. We're going to go in a new direction.
New direction. Okay. Which is a nice way of saying
you're fired.
You're fired.
Let's get to the point. You're fired.
All right. So now here's the funny thing about that, because prior to this, I did my own back end research. There were more parents that wanted you here, the kids and the parents. And I talked to a few of them, most of them customers. And I told him, hey, I'm doing this podcast for Jason. He said, my boys just loved him. And that's hard to deal with.
It is.
Because they love Jason. Now, you were hard. I'm going to be honest with you. You were hard on them. But they can't. They understood why you were being hard on them. They did. But it's hard to take kids now and be hard on them and know that I'm doing this for a reason. Because there is no communication if you're not showing them what the reason is, because they already look at it as he's yelling at me. That's what it is, and it kind of spirals some kids.
Yes,
it does. I've seen it a lot lately.
Yeah.
But the kids that came to me, one of them I know very closely, and you know who I'm talking about.
Sure.
They couldn't praise you enough, and another family that I'll tell you off the air praised you more than anybody I've ever heard. Praise Jason Kingery here in Berwick.
Yeah. Oh, no. Listen, George, all it takes is one or two to get upset. And then, what is that saying? If there's a couple rotten apples on the bottom, they
spoil a whole bunch.
Bushel or whatever. Now, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say anything bad about Berwick, because my 9 years as a head coach here, I loved. I loved. Like, I was Berwick through and through. Like, anywhere I went, it drove my wife crazy. Even my boys, Mason and Axton, I'd always have Berwick stuff on. I didn't care where I went. You know what I mean? Because I was proud of the town. I was proud to be the coach here. But unfortunately, a couple people didn't feel that way, and it just spiraled out of control. It's the little things I did for these kids too, and my staff. Like, our kids never had to take their practice and game stuff home. It was washed, hung up. You with me?
I could tell you a story about that. I went to the locker room.
Yeah. It was like a college NBA.
I looked at it and I said, "Is this your locker room?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah." The jerseys were hanging up on the thing. I was impressed. Very impressed. You took your job seriously.
I did. We took charter buses all the way games. I had some board members question me on that. Like, why are you taking charters? Because my kids work their tails off. This is what I'm going to do for them. Food after every game, drinks after every practice. We did a lot of community service.
100%.
Just a lot of we had a good program. We really did. Unfortunately, my last 2 years we didn't win much, and I told our AD previous, now gone, and our principal, who's not there no more either, we're going to have a couple bad years, but just stick with it, because we're going to be pretty good here in a few. And unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Can I ask you, that situation, any regrets?
What do you mean regrets? Like,
do you regret how it ended?
Oh, it stings. Like, listen, March 9th, 2020, when they opened my job, was one of the darkest days of my life. And then COVID came out March 13th, that Thursday or Friday. So now I'm stuck in the house.
Oof.
With my two kids and my wife and my dog that, ended up dying right after that too.
Well, you had a rough,
no,
2020.
He didn't die. No, we just got a new dog.
Okay.
My new one. Okay, my bad. God bless you, Boone. Love you, husband.
God,
all right.
okay.
But it was a tough time. I was in a dark place, George. Like, my wife was worried about me. My kids were worried about me. it really hurt my two boys. I mean, it crushed them.
Mm-hmm.
They went to the board meeting that night, and they both went out there crying.
Mm.
It crushed them because they were.
It's got to crush you.
Well, it crushed me, but it
To see
crushed
your
me.
boys.
Oh man, it crushed my wife too because she's from Berwick, and she kept apologizing, saying, I'm sorry I brought you here. Da, da, da. I'm like, Maria, man, we got a great relationship here, you and I, and we do. Now, her and I fight like cats and dogs sometimes, but there's
But who
nothing
doesn't?
there's nothing going to separate me and my wife. We're buddies.
And again, that is important, is to have your relationship, how you show your kids your relationship. I see it because my kids are friends with your boys, and
you got good
that's
boys.
impressive.
Now your youngest is wild, man.
Oh, he's wild. Yeah,
I love it, dude. I love it.
He's got a million questions for everybody.
Yeah.
And when my boys, and they talk about you and what have you, it's Coach Kingery, he wouldn't like that. Or Coach Kingery would. So that, to me, I look at that and I'm like, man, he's leaving an impression on these kids, but it's a good impression. And I wouldn't want them saying, well, it doesn't matter to me.
Well, and you know what bothers me too is I never got the opportunity to coach my two boys and their friends because we were doing all this youth league stuff, getting it together, and it just never materialized. And I think the biggest thing came out of that night too, and I'm not going to say no names here, but there were 4 board members that night that voted to get rid of me. I had never once seen them or spoke to them. And I'm thinking to myself, how can you take my livelihood and my kids' livelihood away, and you've never spoke to me or talked to me? You talk to me for 20 minutes, I guarantee you like me. Do you agree with that?
You're a very likable guy.
And that's what I was thinking. Like, how can you? So they just went on hearsay, and I'm like, oh.
I think what happens is when someone has something, their mind made up as how someone is, the initial, and I've learned this in sales, and even like dealing with customers that have an issue, something happened, got a bad sandwich, something happened, someone disrespected them or didn't disrespect them, like didn't feel that they were. If you start the conversation good, it ends up good.
Yeah.
But if you have that, hey, so what's that? There's all of a sudden an instant, conflict.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will initially say, well, I've heard Jason Kingery is this, so I'm going to be the alpha male. He's not.
Right.
And that just initially starts all of a sudden because you aren't backing down. Let's be honest.
I'm not backing down. No. The thing is, I'm going to tell you the truth.
Yeah. And sometimes the truth.
Sometimes
Jason, just to let you know, sometimes you got to skirt around it a little bit. just I know it's tough.
It's tough.
But skirt around it to kind of, okay, now let's mold this way so we could both win.
Yeah.
I think, and I say this because I know you're at Central Columbia.
Yeah.
I know you are.
I love it there now.
You love it there.
Love
You're
it.
doing great, right?
They're good people. They're good to me. Who's to say that won't happen to me down there? I never say never.
So let's play devil's advocate. Let's just say things don't pan out so well down there. Let's just say they don't. You're a teacher over here.
I'm a teacher at Berwick. Yep.
Yeah.
Love my job. Love teaching. They put me in 5th grade, and
they love you there.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would Jason Kingery ever think of coming back to coach his boys? Coach my boys at Berwick.
Would I ever come back?
Well, I'm saying I wouldn't say head coaching, like as an assistant to the basketball team.
Well, I will tell you this: never say never, because I told my wife I'd never move to Berwick, and here I am. But
So
I
never
say never. But I can tell you this: I'm in a good spot down there, and my boys are in a good spot. I think so. I can't.
No, I agree. Because now that I'm thinking about it, you have moved back into the district.
Right.
Central.
They've got a rule at Berwick: if you teach there, your kids can come to school there. At least I know some of the teachers are doing that. I don't know, But
So let's see.
It's not even crossed my mind because Mason, my oldest, has started high school there.
Okay. Oh, he did start high school?
Yeah, they started last week.
Oh, my God, they're getting so old.
I know. He's 5'11" now. He used to be like 5'2".
Hey, he was just about my same height.
How old are you? How tall are you?
I say 5'6", but here's what happened.
With those boots on, you're 5'7", man.
I got a physical one time, and the guy said I was 64 inches, and I took him back. I said 64 inches. That's 5'4". It's like, yeah, you're 5'4". I'm 5'4". I couldn't believe it. I said, no, I'm I've been putting 5'8" on my license for years. I'm 5'4". At least allegedly, that's what the thing said. I don't know.
Keep putting down your 5'8", man.
I think I should.
You got a heart bigger than gold, man. You should get 4 more inches.
But that's not
to go back to your question, like never say never. But listen, I'm in a good
and I know
spot
you got a
down
good
there.
spot. I do.
I love it. We love our house, and
Yeah, no, I mean, you've really done well for yourself. And let's go back a little bit from your childhood there, just because one of the things that I've always liked to do on the podcast is showing people how well people do. And now here's a guy, a horrible tragedy. And even when I was reading that bio, I was like, holy cow. Within 2 years, you lost both your parents. 2 years. 1 horrible accident. 2 horrible disease.
horrible.
Okay? You could have gone either way.
Oh.
You could have gone, hey, life isn't fair. This is what it is. Here comes someone in your life, your grandmother, who was always in your life, changes that mindset. Says, no, you're not going to depend on anybody else to tell you what your life's going to be like. You're going to set the narrative of your life.
Correct.
Which in turn, look at you now. You tell your story, so that way you're going to tell the story. You're going to have someone else tell your story, because then that's the story that's going to be out there.
Correct. And that's why I feel like I'm a good educator.
I would say I'd be saying a great educator. And I say that because I do have my ear on the ground here. It's cool. I mean, people that come in here, we talk. This is what I do. Doing this podcast is easy for me because this is what I do at the bagel shop. I bullshit with everybody. I just do.
Well, you're good at it.
Oh, allegedly. I don't know. I like talking to people because I remember even when someone said, what the hell do you want to do for a living? And this was years ago. I said, I want to talk for a living. I wanted to be a boxing announcer, but then I said, I want to talk for a living. They said, you're not going to make any money. And I said, oh, okay. And then the guy sitting over there talking to him said, Oprah Winfrey's a billionaire. She talks to people for a living. So, yeah, it didn't work out that way that I went right to that. I went to the bagel business, but that always stuck in my mind. And now I'm fortunate that I'm in a situation where I have 2 to 3 really great employees. Mm-hmm. So I could separate myself and work on the business instead of in the business, that I can do what I want to do. And that's talk to people, bring stories like yours to the forefront, bring stories like Bo to the forefront. I had Jeremy Hassel here last month, those kind of stories. Because this is the story that changes people's lives.
It does.
It really does. And whether take out the nonsense that, the other stuff, you can't tell me if you are a normal human being with a heart that says, Jason Kingery doesn't care about how my kid is going to be in the future.
No.
You can't.
If you feel like that, then
you can't. But you can't. And I mean, a normal human being would say, Jason Kingery cares about my kids, what they're going to be like in the future.
Well, I tell the kids now that I coach, I am not going to treat you no different than I treat my 2 boys at home. Mm-hmm. And I treat my 2 boys at home. I'm tough on them. Yeah. I love them. Yeah, and it's bought in. You know what I mean? But like, I care about kids. I the ones who are going to the wayside. I did emotional support up here.
Yep.
For however many years.
Yep.
And I could get on their level because when they would come into class and F that. I mean, it's a different world.
Yeah, it is. I know.
You don't know what the F's going on with me, Coach King. Oh yeah, I do. Let's sit and talk. Let's sit and talk, man. Let's sit down and talk.
Yeah.
And some of them would listen. And I've had some of these parents that see me now. Man, you made a big impression on my kid. Mm-hmm. And then you had some that just refused to listen, and they're on the outside looking in now, meaning that some's in jail, some's just not doing the right things,
And sometimes it's just that person who's been through that situation, and that's why a lot of times I tell them, people wouldn't know what I went. They wouldn't know. If I didn't tell my story out on this podcast for the last month, they wouldn't know. But I've been through shit. Yes. Come to me, talk to me. I'll tell you, hey, this is what happens. Everybody goes through this shit. Everybody goes through it.
You didn't graduate high school, did you?
Nope.
See,
and it was very sneaky how it happened. I didn't have enough days. I was not a bad kid in school. I wasn't bad.
Don't bullshit me.
I'm serious. I never talked back or nothing. I just never showed up. I never showed up. I hated it. And because I'm one of the, I could tell you almost the last day I went to school, it is a horrible experience I had. So I tell you, we didn't have money we never brought lunches. We didn't have money to do that. We didn't know about the program you get the tickets on. In school, you just get a black ticket We didn't know about that. So we go in, and I used to always wait at the end of the line when the girls would come out. I say, hey, you give me your change there or whatever? And he'd give me the change. So and that's how I ate. Okay? That's how I ate. And I worked for a guy, and he, to this day, he's someone who's very close to me. I worked for a guy at a bagel shop named Joe Marara. He actually wouldn't care if I went to the bagel shop. I worked at the bagel shop. I walked to the bagel shop. He said, you can eat and drink whatever you want when you're working.
Mm-hmm. And you did.
I did. Yeah. And I would like make a bagel to go home.
Yeah.
And that's what I ate.
That's funny because how times have changed. So I didn't know this, but I guess in grade school and middle school, I was on free lunch. Mm-hmm. All right. When I got to high school, I'll never forget. It was the first day of high school, 9th grade. I'm in line. I go to ring out what I'm getting. And the lunch lady at our high school at the time said, oh, no, sweetheart, free lunches are over there. These are the ones that pay.
Oh.
That would never happen nowadays.
No.
But that was in 88.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do. I was embarrassed.
So you didn't have the money?
No.
Okay. No, I just
sat it down. I went and sat with my buddies, went home bitching at my grandmother. Well, you know.
Mm-hmm. And you don't realize it at the time.
No.
You don't.
So you know what I used to do on lunch? So we lived a block away from the high school. I didn't eat. I would act like I was going home. I'd sit out back 30 minutes, walk back into school. Just didn't eat.
Yeah.
It sucked. But
no,
because I did not want to be labeled free and reduced lunch.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be labeled that.
Mm-hmm.
So
and I was getting back to that story with the one that changed really, where I decided I'm out, is because we didn't have pencils. We didn't have pencils.
Right.
And I can remember I was sitting in back of a girl. She was real good looking too. And she was...
Was she Puerto Rican?
No, she was a white girl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And to the left of me was this guy who was like top baseball player. Yeah. Like there.
Cool guy.
Cool dude, had the hairdo, had everything and everything. He's bald now, so what do I care?
With a beer belly.
Yeah. And I remember I said, hey, we were taking a test. And I didn't have a pencil. Didn't have a pencil or pen. I said, can I have a pen, borrow a pen? And she says, I don't have any. I said, oh, okay. The guy next to her asked her, there you go. Because of him being popular, had money, he had the drip, he had everything. She didn't give it to me, but she gave it to him. And I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
This is not, my life will never be, if I don't do something now, I am not going to be on a different level.
And it goes back to what you said about having the uniform.
Mm-hmm.
If everyone would have been uniformed, she wouldn't know there was a difference between you and him.
He had the Air Jordans. He had everything.
Yeah.
You know, he's very successful now. So, I mean.
For him.
Good. But I'm saying is like, that's a point in time where, you know, if someone like you would have came into my life as a coach and been like, hey, go this way. I did have a few coaches that were on the youth league level that showed me a different way. But those are the things that stick in my head. That's why, you know, with the podcast, we get to 1,000 subscribers. We get to whatever, where we get monetized.
You're going to get there.
It's going to go back into the community.
Yeah.
I said, I am going to pay for these things. I'm going to pay for these people who say, hey, I can't pay my oil bill.
So what do you want to do? Like,
I have a project that I'm doing. It's called Georgie's Project. And the logo is my mother, my 2 boys, and me. Yeah. And I can remember the logo is my mom looking at me because it was a picture that I took. It's out there when my last fight. Okay. Saying, oh, I'm proud of him. Because, I had the belt and everything. Sure. That was the last fight I won. So I'm going to put it together and have it, whereas all the money, and when me and Michelle get married, we got married. But when we get to marry, we're not going to ask for any money or anything. If you want to make a monetary donation or you want to do something put it in that box there. We'll make sure it goes to the people it's got to go to.
So you're not married yet?
I am.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, so you already, okay.
We just didn't have a, what do you call it?
Reception.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many other things going on in life. We've been down this road before.
What's going on, man?
Yeah, we've been down this road. Okay, so it's just a lot of crap.
Yeah.
So you don't have time to do that. And that, not that we don't want to have a celebration of us getting married. It's just, that's not really, that we love each other. Not a piece of paper is going to tell us you love each other.
I get it.
So when I do that, I want to give back to the people that, and a lot of people won't say anything. They won't say anything because they're embarrassed to do it. I always tell the people, there's always someone out there who could say, we'll make. They won't come out and blast you all over the place and do whatever. There are people there that'll help you out. They'll just say, "Hey, look, get through." Because I'm gonna tell you, I was negative $77,000 in my bank account.
When was that?
That was 2008.
Which is not that long ago.
No, and it was because the IRS came in. They made sure I had zero left, and I didn't know about it. It was a bad situation. The financial crisis was happening. My marriage was starting to do one of these. Yeah. It was just a nightmare, a total nightmare. Started getting back on my feet, got into the colleges, and I started really starting to get my shit back together. Mm-hmm. Then I ended up getting divorced. Then that was a whole nother night. Here we go again.
Sure.
But I had friends from New Jersey, a friend of mine, and I was in big trouble. And I'd called and I'd spoken to them. I'd spoke to them, but didn't spoke to them for a while. Everyone in the bagel business knows everybody. And he wrote me a check. No questions asked. To this day, that is one of the greatest. He's one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life. Sure. Now, let's go back to my boss in New Jersey, Joe, who owned the bagel shop. Our lights got shut off. Our gas got shut off. And our water got shut off in the same day. I was going to go to the bathroom. I flipped on the light. There was nothing. I thought, oh, the fuse blew. Yeah. Then I go to pee. The water won't flush. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Well, turns out everything was shut off. Now it wouldn't happen because you have so many things. Like you could have utilities free for forever now because they just can't do it. Right. Because you can't have kids in the house shutting the heat off in the winter. Right. There was no pain. They didn't care at that point. My boss, when I came the next day, he gave me a $7,000 check.
Really?
Yep. He said, you put the lights on, you put the water on, and by the way, whatever's left, buy yourself a car. Get here instead of jogging here. Yep.
Wow.
I'm friends with him to this day. I talk to him every day.
Well, you should be.
I should be. Yes, I should be.
You should be.
Yeah. And any chance I get to tell you that guy turned, he's done that for so many people, you wouldn't even know.
Well, see,
you wouldn't even guess it, and that's what I mean.
And that's awesome to hear.
There are people out there.
There are people out there, but it's the bad ones just supersede the good ones.
Yeah,
I mean
they're the loudest.
They're the loudest. Yeah, what is it? The squeaky wheel gets the grease or whatever.
Yeah. What down the south do they even have these cliches? I mean, that's normal up here.
Well, you know what? Why don't you go back with me to Boone County?
Look, the only place I'd like to go down south is Mudlick, Kentucky, where Hillbilly Jim's from.
Where?
Mudlick, Kentucky.
And where's that at?
I don't know. This wrestler, Hillbilly Jim, he was from
look this up.
Mudlick, Kentucky.
That's probably close to where I'm from.
I would love to go there then. He had like him, Uncle Elmer, Cousin Luke. They were hillbillies. They were wrestlers. I loved it. I thought that was the greatest name. Mudlick, Kentucky. Where are you from? Mudlick, Kentucky.
Mudlick, Kentucky.
Mudlick, Kentucky.
There is a town right outside of
French Lick.
No, that's
where Larry Bird's
from. Indiana. Here's a better one for you. Big Ugly.
Big Ugly. Now, see,
it's close to Madison. Big Ugly. And I'll never forget on the David Letterman show in our local newspaper, which came out every Wednesday, the Coal Valley News, the headline said, Big Ugly Woman Murdered.
Oh, my God.
Because
yes.
with me?
Oh,
Big
my God.
Ugly. Like,
yes.
She's from Big Ugly.
Yes.
It's not that she was a big, ugly woman.
Oh,
but
that's
big,
hilarious.
Ugly woman murdered. Like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah, boy, they came right out and described her, huh?
Poor lady got murdered.
I know.
Yeah. So, yeah, you got to look that up. Big Ugly.
Big Ugly. That's Big crazy. Ugly, so, after your tenure there at Berwick, it ends,
as a basketball coach.
As a basketball coach, it ends. Yeah. You're still teaching there now.
Yep. Well, I'll be honest with you. I had a lot of offers to go coach other places. And there was one down in Virginia that me and my wife, we toured. They took us out to eat, wined us and dined us. Nice school, right on the water. And I didn't feel like leaving. Like, I'm like, I'm not going to get ran off from a place that I really like now.
Isn't that something, though? Mm-hmm. It took you so much to get here. You didn't want to leave there. Now you don't want to go back.
Yeah. I just don't want to go back.
Because your roots now are here with your boys.
I've got my boys. I have friends. I mean, I do. I know quite a few people. And the people that I know, they're great. Because I'll be honest with you, when I lost my basketball job, I had some supposedly friends. They turned their back on me, man.
That ends part 2 of the Jason Kingery interview series. Part 3 and the final part comes up next.